Would you or someone you know like to be a guest on Listen Up? If so, give us a call at area code 816-535-1081. That's area code 816-535-1081. Or better yet, email us at listenupblackpeople@gmail.com.
Hello everyone, I'm Kelvin Tiller, owner of Tiller's Mixed Martial Arts here in Kansas City, Kansas. Here at Tiller's Mixed Martial Arts, I offer boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, and strength and conditioning. We have affordable pricing for adults and children. I am open Monday through Saturday, so please come out and support, and I hope to see you soon.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Curry.
Hi, and I'm Florence Curry.
And we are the owners of Longevity Nutrition.
Longevity Nutrition is a company that serves healthy shakes, energizing teas, sports nutrition, and we would like to offer you good nutrition.
What better way than to think about your health and become healthier? We're here to service you. We're open Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 5, and Saturdays, 8 to 3.
Yes, and we're going to work on that good nutrition inside out.
That's right.
Hi, I'm Tova Tanner of Royal Cohesive Network. We are a nonprofit organization that work with youth in the local community. Our 4 cornerstones of sustainability are literacy, youth entrepreneurship, homeschool hub, and also gardening. Our mission is to engage people in educational and professional development to enhance sustainability. You can visit our website at www.royalnetwork.org, or you can follow us on Facebook. You can also email us at info@royalnetwork.org.
Pine Hill Productions, providing voiceover and narration for your production needs.
This episode of Listen Up is sponsored by Legends Comedy Club and Sports Lounge, Kansas City's premier black-owned comedy club where the laughs are on us and the experience is second to none. Miss Kilo Sade.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm great. I'm
now
blessed.
it's Kilo Sade, right?
Yes, just like
Okay.
the singer
Awesome.
Sade. I was her namesake. So
That's
yes.
great. I love that name.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and get started. So tell me a little bit about Miss Sade. Give me a little bit of history, a little bit of background on who you are.
Who I am? Well, my name is Kilo Sade. I am 34 years old. I am a mother of four. A newly divorcee, but I'm also engaged to be remarried. So
Awesome.
I'm a woman. I'm a lover. I am an empath. I'm intuitive. If I could think of just a few things to say about myself, I would say I speak life. I speak life to anybody that I come across. It can be a stranger, it can be somebody that I've known for years. I'm a creator. I create amazing jewelry. I am the owner of Be Estelle Jewelry Co., which is a bipartisan of my major company, which is Hey Kilo, which is my blog.
Okay.
I'm a writer. Writing is my first love. Whether it's artistic, creative writing, whether it's just me being me, talking about my life, my experiences.
Right.
I'm resilient. I'm a survivor.
Gotcha.
I can go on and on.
So let me ask you this. So what inspired you? What kind of motivated you to evolve into who you are right now?
That journey has been a journey that I've been on for the last 7 years now. 6 years ago, my mother was murdered. It was tragic, unexpected. Like, to know my story is to know what we've all been through our entire lives. My mother, her name was Brenda Estelle Anderson, which is Be Estelle is named after her. She battled with sickle cell anemia, so I knew from a young age, early on, that I wouldn't have my mom my entire life. So we were preparing to lose her, but just not in the way that we lost her.
Right.
And so just that happening, those things happening, to where I lost the ability to be able to, see her leave, see her transition on, and not knowing that kind of like took me on a bad spiral for about the first two years after it occurred. And then someone gifted me some crystals, and it sparked my fascination with crystals, learning their healing properties, and that brought me to creating jewelry with them to basically heal them. It was basically my healing journey from healing myself to helping others heal themselves as well.
What would I expect to see from you? Like, what are you doing now that is a result of that?
Right now, it's basically created a person of resilience and strength and confidence. And I'm able to not only empower that for not only myself, but into other people that I meet along my way. So it's basically sparked the need to make sure that I'm building into people. My mother suffer with depression and anxiety. I suffer with depression and anxiety in result to that. I really don't think people realize how tragedy affects us as life goes on.
Right.
I feel like a lot of us become so enwrapped in the tragedy itself that we don't really learn or see that we're now going through those same motions that led that person to where they were when they were tragically taken away. And so like I saw myself going that same route that my mother was going, and I had to stop myself from continuing on that pathway. And what I did at that moment, when I realized that I was making the same things and doing the same things that she was doing, it took me to a place where it's like, okay, how many people could benefit more from this story? How many people could benefit more from learning from the pains that's been done to them and where it can take them and find strength within it? And I feel like that's what I've bloomed from. I became stronger through tragedy.
It's interesting that you say that. When you say that you become stronger because of the tragedy or the trauma that you've experienced. I find it to be very common that as Black people, we are a society of people that, since we've been here, we've had to suffer some form of trauma.
We all suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Even now, as we would like to believe that we are free and all these other things, do you believe that with all that we go through and that we have to deal with, that it's possible that we may be kind of going through an evolutionary period?
Throughout this time frame, even though we've been sitting still, we've been sitting with self.
Right.
So we have no way around facing who we are. And I feel like it's making us all stronger and powerful during this time period, because now we see who we are. We see the things we need to work on. We see where it's like it's like God or the Most High Universe, whoever you believe in, put this mirror in front of everybody, and it's like you have to truly sit and face yourselves, and face all the things that have happened. Like racism has been around since we've been in the country, and I feel like right now United States is basically seeing that we're not united, seeing the division, seeing how much pain has been done, and it's like, and we're demanding being seen, because it's the younger generation that's really on the front lines, that's really like fighting for us, and like making it known like we're not standing for what we've previously stood for, and we need to be pushing protection over them, not only from a physical standpoint but a monetary standpoint, like pushing all that into them. But as far as for our community, I feel like the blindfolds are starting to come off of our own eyes. We've been silent for too long. We've been silent as far as what's been done to us. It's been too much silence as far as now we're also having these dynamic conversations amongst each other on the things that we need to face. We are systematically placed in these positions to be each other's enemies. Like we need to learn and outgrow these things, these traumas, that and the way that we handle and live through these traumas. Slavery, that's still hindering us. Those traumatic effects, whether you say it could be the Willie Lynch theory that we've adapted from, any of that, like taking all of that, we're not healing from any of that stuff. We're just basically pointing fingers and pointing blame without actually sitting down at a table like right now and actually having these uncomfortable conversations on the dynamics within our Black community. Now we're also having these dynamic conversations amongst each other on the things that we need to face, as far as like domestic violence, things that's happening in our communities. Like my mother was beat to death, and said I wasn't gonna cry on the show, but she was beat to death, and just being in a Black woman who has never seen Black men defend or protect any women in my family. They have all been beat on or all been raped, molested. You know, like I've endured and heard these stories for multiple years throughout my life. Now, am I saying that all Black men don't protect Black women? That's not what I'm saying. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to start communicating with each other and be able to listen and have these conversations with each other that are not ideally the conversations we like to have. Because usually when you say something like that, Black men is like, well, what did she do to deserve that? Like a couple years ago, it was a woman that was killed at a local music store, or that worked at a local music store. She was killed by her child's father. Everybody was like, well, what did she do to deserve? I'm like, nobody does anything to deserve to do anything. That's the problem right there, is that we feel like people deserve the things that happen to us. Say, for instance, a woman and a man are together, and this man has mentally and physically abused her for forever, and then she finally breaks free from him, but she's taking those survival tactics that she learned dealing and going through that relationship, and it's going with her through life because she hasn't learned to let that go.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm sorry about what took place with your mother, but I think you hit on a very, very strong point. It's something that I've talked about for a long time. My story with domestic violence is a very unique story. And I've been trying to have these conversations with women when we talk about domestic violence, because what you find with domestic violence, when we hear the word, we always think, okay, yeah, it's a woman or a man beating on a woman. And what tends to happen is the way it's presented is it draws a wedge between you and myself.
Exactly.
But you made a very important point, is that we have to start having conversations with each other. Mm-hmm. For example, I can't love you and you can't love me if you don't understand how I feel and what I'm going through, and we're having dialogue. Mm-hmm. If you and your fiance, am I correct?
Yeah.
Or having discourse or having a disagreement, mm-hmm. it's not healthy for me or someone else to come to you and draw a wedge between you and him by feeding rhetoric.
Right.
And what I tend to see is that when we're having these conversations about healing, is that we use conversations in a way to draw a wedge. Like, for example, when you look at a lot of these organizations, most of them are filled with women. But the missing dynamic is not inviting the men to the table to find out where the breakdown in communication is taking place.
Right.
Most of these women have children by these men who they have had violent confrontations with. A lot of domestic violence situations can be resolved with conversation. Now, I mean, it's unfortunate that relationships sometimes come to that point, but again, like you mentioned, we have to have conversations on how we can remedy those situations so we're not getting to that. Where do you think we're going? What do you think is happening that has brought us to this point to where we just can't get along, or where there's this tension between the two of us? Like when men, like we'll just say men and women,
Right.
when we meet, why do you think that sometimes a woman feels like she needs to compete with her man, or a man feels like he needs to control his woman? Because those are the two dynamics you see that's causing this.
And you know, it's vice versa for me. I have an issue with control.
Uh-huh.
And my fiance, he has he's very verbal. He likes to communicate.
Uh-huh.
I have an issue with communication, but I didn't learn that until I got into a relationship with someone who is, I'm thinking like, I can talk. I'm a talker. I'm a writer. I'm good. But I'm more expressive when I write than I am speaking. And so like now it's like relearning myself and relearning how to properly communicate, where I'm not only just saying how I feel, but actually listening to how he feels. And it's a growing process. I really feel like men and women, it starts with self. Mm-hmm. Everything any change that we want to change within the world, or change anything that we see around us, it starts from within.
You're right.
It starts with us. So it's the breakdown as far as like with the man being controlling, as far as like he doesn't want to see his woman do this or that or whatever. It all starts, what happened with him that got him in that place. He has to dig deep to see what it is that's triggering that response. And as far as a woman that feels like she's in competition, or feels like she needs to be this independent person or whatever, like this independent woman stigma that we have on our women, it starts from, where did she learn that? Where did she get that from? Why does she feel like that? What was the dynamic in her childhood? A lot of the stuff starts from childhood traumas and childhood upbringing and nature versus nurture. I'm into astrology, don't get me wrong. I'm really into that type of stuff, the elements, the cosmos and stuff like that. But I also have to take into consideration that a lot of my upbringing really brings into consideration a lot of the things that I'm starting to unlearn. I came from a line of women who were strong, that ran their households. They weren't soft women. They were really hardened women who from the South. You know, Southern women are extremely hardened. They're fearless. They're independent. So I come from a long line of women who basically took care of their houses. Their husbands would go to work, bring the check to them. They'll handle all the bills. They'll go about their business. They stood their ground. They didn't take no SHIT off of anybody. You know what I'm saying? So it's like having that type of dynamic around me, but then also seeing the negative aspects of it too. They also were alcoholics, or like they dealt with things like that. They had issues from their childhood that they were still harboring into raising grandchildren. You know, like the chain of iniquity in my family is women leaving their children and leaving their children for someone else that was the older matriarch to raise the children. And I see that in all types of dynamics. Even still to this day, you still see the grandma, the mother dear, or whoever raising the additional children around, you know, like, so my mother was around, but she really wasn't around, and I was raised by my mother dear. So I had to go back to my childhood to heal from that, to prevent me from becoming that, you know, like and then like my whole mission in life was to make sure I didn't raise my sons the way that I was raised. I wanted to be active, I wanted to be present, and I wanted to be there, but in a sense, in the same time, it created this thing on I fear my children doing anything because I don't want anything to happen to them. It's like this. It's like so much psychological stuff
and you know that's something that has been passed down genetically from generations to generations. A lot of women carry that trait of being overprotective of their children, and that's something that's been passed down because there used to be a point in time where if a woman wasn't keeping her eyes on her children, especially her sons, that they could be kidnapped and lynched. You know, that's something that's been genetically passed down for us. But I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, you can't love a person beyond the degree that you love yourself. And I totally agree with everything that you said. You know, I would love to have you back on this platform, because there's some other things I really want to talk to you about, that I really want to be transparent about, that I think the audience really should hear and would like to hear from the both of us. So I really love to bring you back on so we can have that conversation.
Sweet, anytime. But
what I would like to do is, like, if there's anything that you want to tell the audience as far as like how they can get in touch with you, as far as like with the crystals, with any business institutions that you have, how can they get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about, you know, any type of therapies that you may offer, any type of crystals they want to purchase? How do they get a hold of Sade? You
can basically reach me. My website is heykilo.org, so www.heykilo.org. My blog is on there. My storefront is on there. The another option is you can follow me on Instagram. I have it's at hey_KILO on Instagram. I post a lot of motivational things on there. If you're wanting to book a reading or an intuitive counseling session, you can either DM me on there, or you can follow our group organization, which is Balancing Energies KC. That's on Facebook. It's Balancing Energies KC, basically. You just add that, you put the spaces in and find us on there. But that's basically about it. Check out my blog. You can subscribe. I have a customer in North Carolina who was just shocked about how personal I am. I like to be personal. I don't care how busy I am, how many orders I got. I still like to send custom messages from myself. It's really me. It's not a robot sending the messages to anybody. Like I try to be as personable with folks as much as possible. I'm reachable. I'm not someone that you can't talk to, but if you need me, you guys can reach out to me on any of those platforms. On Facebook, I'm just Kilo Sade, so KILO. Space SADE. So yeah. All
right, Miss Kilo.
No problem. I appreciate being on.
You know, it has been a pleasure.
Nice meeting you.
I look forward to having you back on and having some more conversations.
Yes, it's gonna be awesome.
We're gonna talk a little bit more after the show and everything, because there's some things I want to do with you.
No problem. No problem.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our show for this evening. We'd like to thank our guests, our staff, our sponsor, and our supporters for their contributions. But most importantly, we'd like to thank you, our viewers. Be sure and tune in for our next broadcast and follow us online. Thank you. Good night.